Rwanda, a tiny mountainous country in Central Africa, and recent scene of events that shocked the world. On the 6th of April 1994, a plane carrying the presidents of Rwanda and Burundi was shot down and signalled the start of a genocide of unimaginable horror. The minority Tutsi tribe and moderate Hutus were the first victims, and the whole country incited to a frenzy of barbaric massacre. Up to 1 million people were killed, and the world community left to it. The final death toll will never be known. Since then, many reports have emerged from Rwanda and the surrounding countries. The plight of some 85,000 unaccompanied children desperately hoping to be reunited with relatives. Of 60,000 prisoners awaiting trial by a non-existent judicial system. Of the conditions for 2 million refugees in neighbouring countries, and of periodic reprisal killings. But beyond the focus of the world's media are other stories. In Bujumbura in April 95, several hundred people were reported killed. 3 weeks later, when the news gatherers had moved on, 2,000 local Christians took to the streets in a peace march. Hutus and Tutsis walked side by side to the area worst hit by the conflict. They too had suffered, but had not lost hope. The credibility of the established church was severely damaged during the genocide, the integrity of many leaders compromised. But there are Christian groups working at grassroots who would present a very different picture. African Revival Ministries, led by David Ndorahutsi, is one such group. And the message of peace and reconciliation they preach is about more than words. I first met them when filming a report for Tear Fund, a Christian relief and development agency. In December 95, I decided to return to find out more of their story. In such a troubled land, it's one which deserves to be told. David Ndorahutsi was born in northern Rwanda and lived in a small village called Matimba, close to Uganda.
About 35 years ago, I stood on this same site where I am standing now, and I watched my father being killed. My father was a pastor in this area. He planted churches around here. There was one across in the other here, and several other churches across in the Ugandan side of the border, which is not even a mile away from us. At about 9 o'clock in the morning, suddenly we had bullets flying through our house, and noise with people with machetes and with guns, and so they came and attacked our home. My father then had been across in Uganda on ministry, and he returned about an hour later with my sister. And when they got here, they found that the people had started torturing us and beating us. I was being hit with nails and spikes. My father was beaten to death. I watched him be killed. And then at about midday, they set the house on fire with everything that was in. This is where the house was, but it was set on fire. They told us that in the evening they would be coming back for us. So by 6 o'clock we tried to cross through the thick forest that was here. Now it's much clearer because it's 35 years ago. It's all changed now. But it took us about 9 hours just to get on the hill. My eldest sister at the time with us was 14-year-old, and another one of 9 and 7, and I was 5 years old. Twice we were attacked by a hippos, and then a lion. But amazingly, God protected us, small children, and we eventually got into the refugee camps in Uganda.
The children joined some 250,000 Rwandans who fled to Uganda from tribal conflict at that time. All were stateless and most would never return home. David lived as a refugee until he was 27 and was the only one from his camp to reach university. But as a teenager, he began to follow his father's steps.
In secondary school, it's when I really met Jesus Christ and accepted him as my Lord and Savior. I finished university in 1982. My training had been in economics and statistics, but I felt that God wanted me to work into full-time Christian service. And I went to do a mission in Burundi at that time.
Burundi shares the same language and culture as Rwanda and was once part of the same country. The capital, Bujumbura, is where David settled and worked for the Anglican Archbishop for 4 years. Then after a year's training in England, he returned and gathered a team of friends to begin the work of African Revival Ministries, or ARM. It was set up as a non-denominational Christian agency with the aim of training church leaders, preaching the gospel and caring for the poor. One of their first projects began in the hills above the city. They wanted to find somewhere to care for mentally ill people who were often left to roam the streets. The place they found was at Sororezo.
We were just looking for a place of prayer. We wanted to spend some days before the Lord in prayer. And as we went in the mountains to pray, suddenly we came to this particular site. And when I looked at the site, God began to speak to me that was specifically a place he was leading us to.
A few weeks later, they were given the exact amount for a deposit to buy it. David moved in with his wife and children and set up a healing centre to care for those with mental problems.
Now, mentally ill here, it's all mixed up. There are those with real mental illness and those with clearly demonic oppressions, which is generally put together as people who are mentally deranged or disturbed.
After being cared for at the centre, many can be placed back with friends and family in the community. Some experience remarkable recoveries, like one of their first patients, Gregoire.
We did just help one man, Gregoire, who was mentally ill for 20 years, crossing the streets naked all the time, and everybody in the city got to know this man. And when we got him up to this healing center and cared for him and prayed for him and lived with him, he recovered. But from his healing, when the news got around in the whole city, everybody, literally most of the people, the senior leaders of the country, the president came to visit him. And that's how all these people have got this water here. It's because those senior people came to see this man healed, and those who could give water gave water. Those who could help us to make roads made our roads. Those who gave us materials for the clinic, and several other key people just came because of that particular person, Gregoire, who was helped on this particular healing center.
On the next hill, a maternity clinic and dispensary was set up. David had found a local woman run over trying to get to the city's hospital to have her next child.
Immediately as we prayed and talked with the team, we decided to have a clinic here to help mothers from this area to have their children without having to go to the capital and cross the street.
The clinic and dispensary attracted rich and poor alike for miles around. But today, much has changed. The maternity unit was forced to close when civil war broke out in Burundi in October '93. Some of the team had to leave. As Tutsis living in a Hutu area, David and his family were prime targets.
This is the house where I used to live until October '93, and this is basically where I was when the fighting started. And right at this place, you could see houses burning, being destroyed around the fence, people being killed, being cut to pieces from all sides. And only God kept us in this place.
For 2 weeks, the site was cut off, surrounded by militia groups threatening to kill. But as they prayed, local people they'd helped came down from the hills and camped around the perimeter wall to protect them. Eventually, they were rescued. The work at Sororezo could only be continued by members of Hutu background. David can rarely come here now. This was the first time he'd permission to visit the area for 9 months.
Now the place hasn't been safe since then. It's 2 years now, and this whole area is considered a fighting zone. And the groups that work in here only work at certain hours of daylight, and it's not very safe to be here at all.
Almost all areas in Burundi are now segregated along ethnic lines, which presents a constant challenge to the ARM team, who continue to work together. But one place where tribal background can be forgotten is in the church which grew out of their work.
We kept doing crusades around the country and helping many churches. But it came to a time when there were so many people who were kind of following us, and it was difficult to push them back into specific churches. But as we prayed, God told us to start a church at Jabe here in the town. And within the first few weeks, there were in hundreds those people that had become Christians during our meetings in different places. The crowd continued to grow into hundreds and thousands. So we've been able to plant many churches in the last 2.5 years.
Teams have moved from this base and set up over 100 similar churches in Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda and Zaire. This new stream of African churches, initiated and supported by ARM, is called Église Vivante, meaning the living church. During the rest of the week, the site at Jabe is used in a variety of ways.
There are several other activities because at Sororezo we felt that some of the mental patients had become so as a result of drug intake. And so we felt we needed a drug, not just a rehabilitation center, but a place where they can learn some skills to enable them to find jobs after they have managed to get off from stealing and all the crime that they used to do. And that's when we started different workshops, carpentry workshop, welding and panel beating workshop, and mechanics workshop. We've also added several other activities, of course, to suit the community around. They've asked to start a school for them, so we have a nursery school and primary school going now. That has been going for 3 years now.
There is also a Bible school on the site, which is run by Olivier Duran. He moved to Bujumbura specifically to help train church leaders from the French-speaking nations of Burundi, Rwanda and Zaire.
My purpose, my vision is to help people to get the knowledge of the Word of God and to practice it, to put it in practice. That's the main aim of the Bible school. Those students who will be graduated, they will be ready for the ministry to be pastor, evangelist, teachers, or other ministries if God called them to be prophets or apostles. It's a practical Bible school.
All the activities at Jabe reflect ARM's high priority on training.
Training is almost the most vital part. When we started the ministry, the first thing we did was to train people, and we've been doing that ever since. Our main particular calling is to train key leaders that may be the future leaders of the whole nation in the coming years.
Up country in the province of Muramvya, Andre is heading up a reconstruction project. Since the violence of October 93, Burundi's hills are littered with the remnants of thousands of destroyed homes. Up to 1 in 5 of the population were displaced. The government wants people to return to their old hillsides and integrate once more. But government policy is powerless to address the root problems. In 2 particular areas, ARM have mobilized their local churches to initiate some reconstruction, and in the process begin the much deeper work of healing and reconciliation.
Our local churches usually are very active, and the local community comes, and also our supervision staff, and they all work together as a team to build and reconstruct houses for the people that were destroyed during the war. We found this to be a major tool in being able to reconcile people as they come to work together, as they come to eat together, share the food, share the time.
Emil is a pastor who oversees 15 of ARN's churches. In a mainly Hutu area, he's supervising work to rebuild homes for 150 Tutsi families. In the second area, it's the other way round. Honore, a local evangelist, is rebuilding with a Tutsi group so the Tutsis can return to the neighbouring hills. Houses have already been completed and the first families begun to move back. The vast majority of people want to reconcile. This man's hope for the future is simply to live in peace, farm his land and provide for his family. And as they return to their homes and are welcomed back, others are encouraged to return and the rebuilding work continues. In 1994, Rwanda's genocide overshadowed every other crisis. It was a year for African revival ministries to expand and adapt their work. As the massacre swept from Kigali across the country, many surviving babies were brought to Burundi. Chrissy Chapman, a British midwife, had been working at the Sororezo maternity clinic. She now began an infant refugee centre.
There were so many children being brought from Rwanda. One day 700 children were brought, another day 400, and there are so many babies being picked from bushes and forests in Rwanda, having been left by people that were killed. And it's from this that Chris then began to feel a burden on caring for these little infants, and we managed to open up this present infant refugee care center, which is now running at the moment.
The babies they took on were generally those found in the most desperate conditions. Some had been injured by machetes, others buried alive. Chrissy began the work of nursing them back to health and then finding families to care for them. David and his wife Ruth had a son and 2 daughters. They adopted their 4th child from here. Rwanda's genocide also resulted in a mass exodus of some 2 million refugees in neighbouring countries. The international agencies were providing the essentials of food, water and medical care, but there were few organisations with the experience or capacity to get alongside the people, speak the same language and understand the culture. ARN were a vital channel for all sorts of help from Christian groups in the West, but specialised in offering spiritual and emotional support. Some were trained in trauma counselling. For many who've survived, the legacy of the past lives on. In the village of Sovu in southern Rwanda, a building project has resulted from ARN's work with refugees in northern Burundi.
These people just went in the camps and stayed with them for a couple of months, until then it was possible to repatriate these refugees back into Rwanda. But then we felt we hadn't finished the work and the team needed to cross over into Rwanda with them. And now they're helping them to rebuild homes and new places. This village is a village where during the war so many thousands of people were massacred, and just below this construction site we have a grave that has more than 2,000 people buried in. The atmosphere here is an atmosphere now of peace and unity. We have people who have been before in the forests fighting as rebels. Others have been in the Kibeho camp. Others are people who are left during the war. Others are refugees who had been out in other countries but have now recently returned. They have now managed to come together and work together, and both ethnic groups are living together now happily.
As more and more people came, the team began new initiatives to make use of local skills. The materials are now all made on site, and the valley below has been cleared for farming. Food for work is supplied by the UN, and Tearfund sponsors the ARM team. ARM's approach to community development is based on their Christian perspective.
Christian leaders, as they move in the camps and places, they move not with things but more with love. And people need more love than things. Usually people can find the things for themselves, but they lack somebody to give love. And when Christians come in, it makes a big difference. Tribes that couldn't live or work together come together, and they just find that they can meet at the cross, because the message we take in is the message of the cross, the message of forgiveness, the message of love, the message of reconciliation.
I think that God has prepared for us a good way for winning those hearts, all those hearts of these people. Now I believe that next time you will find a big church here.
And we plan to extend the program nationwide, because so many organizations are applying to us to participate with them, because they've seen our group succeed, especially within the area of community development and reaching the people.
In the north of the country, ARM are now planning to build 2,500 homes in an area allocated by the UN High Commission for Refugees. Additional housing is desperately needed, not just for those whose homes were destroyed in the genocide, but for those like David, who became refugees in 1960, now at last hope to return to their own country.
There are so many refugees that have returned from other countries, about 1 million extra people, and these people need housing, need shelter, and for some it's difficult to come with nothing and be able to start afresh. So we're praying that God provides us resources to provide some level of shelter, working with the people and enabling them to have homes for themselves and their families.
Alongside community development, ARM have also been planting churches. The Église Vivante at Kabuga, near Kigali, is one example. It was started by 10 survivors of the genocide, now joined by refugees from Burundi, Zaire and Uganda. Most of them are widows and many are orphans. During the genocide, more people died in churches than anywhere else, and many have questioned how it could happen in a country officially 80% Christian. But not everyone agrees with that statistic.
We feel that it's not just being baptized and confirmed in the traditional way that makes you a Christian. What we believe is you become a Christian when you have a personal encounter with Jesus Christ and you get born again. And then you continue to live a discipled life. That's what makes somebody a Christian, when he follows in the steps of Jesus Christ. And there are not many of those in Rwanda. Maybe something like 8% really, not 80%. Those stood their ground. There's some pastors who saw their churches being destroyed completely because they just refused to separate. For one side to go on one side, another tribe on the other side. There are others that knew that they were going to be killed, and they would all walk together, both tribes. And there are others that stood their ground in faith and just trusted God to keep them and protect them, and God did protect them. There are those that hid the people from killing. There are those that fed the people. There are those that loved people. The few 8% have done their work according to what Jesus taught them.
ARM's work in Rwanda is headed up by Stratton. Like David, he became a refugee in 1960, but has recently returned to Rwanda. He's now based in Kigali, where the church meets in a disused cinema.
I met Stratton about 12 years ago, and he was a very strong follower of Karl Marx and communist ideologies. So we talked for about 5 years discussing about the differences in Jesus and Karl Marx, but eventually he gave in and followed Jesus Christ. We've been friends ever since.
The church here has been particularly concerned about the plight of women left widowed and orphaned in Kigali. Many have seen their families killed, many have been raped, and talking about the past is not easy. So during the week, the church premises are used to teach some of these women tailoring skills, so that they can find work and earn a living. It's run by Stratton's wife, Adeline, and a few of her friends. Despite the lack of material and just having a couple of hand-operated machines, many have been able to find work after training here. But just as important, it's a place where women can find friendship and support and begin to recover from the trauma they've been through.
She is saying this project is made for the widow and the orphans. So when people they come in the church, they are sad, they have no joy, but they just come here in this project to help them to have a training. They can talk about their past, the problem they had in their life, and after that they talk about Jesus all the time. They are not the same when they're going back as when they come first.
This project has been a lifeline for many. Jacqueline is 17 and had 8 brothers and sisters. She is now the only one left. Her friend Françoise has also survived alone. When her parents were killed, she fled to a pastor's house for refuge. His family were of the opposite tribe, but managed to hide her for several weeks from those who sought her life. She's lived with them ever since. From the brokenness of the past, the church is trying to build a new family, with an allegiance far stronger than tribal roots. African Revival Ministries now has bases in each of Rwanda's neighbouring countries. Their commitment to training church leaders, preaching the gospel and caring for the poor is remarkably combined at their base in Kasese, Uganda. Here, across the Rift Valley, in the shadow of the Rwenzori Mountains, an agricultural project has begun. It's an area particularly special to David. Until recently, there were 20,000 refugees living here, the camp where David grew up. Now that the refugees have returned to Rwanda, the land is available for development. So in 1995, ARM sent a team to begin the work of clearing the land for farming. James, who leads the team, once held a key position with the Ugandan Tea Board, but David met him in Burundi in rather different circumstances.
I met James 12 years ago. He was living in a refugee camp. There was a camp for Ugandans who had run away from the regimes in Uganda that were terrorists like Idi Amin and the groups that followed him. And so he came to work with us in our office. And whichever center we took him to, he would make it look fantastic. He would turn it over and make it so productive and useful.
The idea for this project was born out of a desire to see James settled back in his own country and give him the opportunity to make full use of his gifts. Already he's developed 53 of the 100 acres and produced a maize yield of one of the highest in Uganda. But a key aim of the work is to help prisoners. There are 5 prisons in the surrounding hills where conditions are desperate. So during harvesting, they pay the prisons to release around 100 men each day to come and work on the farm.
They come, they work for part of the morning, and we usually organize a good meal for them, so that at the end of the day, they go back having had enough water to wash their body, having a good meal, having a good surrounding and change in atmosphere, but that enables us to reach to the prisoners themselves with the gospel.
The prisoners also learn it's a place they can turn to for help when released.
When people finish their prison service and want to go home, most of them don't have any penny to go home with, or even transport to get them home. So what we do here is they come, they work for some income that enables them to get home, some income that enables them to start service, some training in farming that enables them to do something when they go back to their homes. So this project, we farm, we have cows, we have teams working together, and we are planning to also put here a Bible school, as there is none in the Western region, where the students in the Bible school can also learn about farming, can be together in fellowship, so that when they go back to their areas of work, they can have good programs to enable them not only to preach the gospel, but also to demonstrate the work of the gospel as people are fed and cared for and ministered to and taught better ways of developing themselves in this country.
I hope this project is going to be very successful. I don't have any doubt that we are going to prosper in this business, and we are going to spread the word of God from this place.
The work of African Revival Ministries is growing fast, the leadership team approaching 400. But work isn't easy in countries where wars and rumours of wars are the daily norm. This is especially true at the moment in Bujumbura, where the prospect of fighting is never far away, and the innocent most often the victims. In the city centre, they're setting up a clinic to care for the casualties. During times of crisis, wounded people would often be taken to David's house because the hospitals were full or because people felt safer there. This clinic will be somewhere that help can be offered and people trusted. It will be run by Russian surgeon Dr. Yuri, together with an English administrator and medical staff from both tribes.
This is an emergency clinic which is supposed to help people 24 hours a day, even if other facilities in the town will be not available because of fighting and because of civil conflict.
The clinic will have its own electricity and water supply and facilities for x-raying and minor surgery, as well as an operating theatre. But in the midst of conflict, ARM have not lost sight of their vision for revival. Despite frequent curfews, roadblocks and the risk of ambush, the team continued to travel.
We're planning to do about 400 marches here in Burundi, visiting 400 towns and villages. And we're going to do the same in Rwanda. And in any area where we feel refugees and groups are that have been affected by the crisis here. And we feel that the more we do these things, proclaiming Jesus, lifting Jesus higher, then we begin to see the world bow down the knee to Jesus. And many will come to him, and many will repent of their sins, and many will require forgiveness, and as a result, many will be able to be reconciled with their neighbors and friends. And we feel this is our call and commission in this part of the world today.
The fulfillment of that commission has not been without its cost. 10 days after we filmed at Sororezo, rebel forces came down from the hills and the military fought back. Many innocent people died, including the leader of the Sororezo team and 5 other staff. It was the first time any of ARM's people had been killed since their work began.
The war is still going on now as we speak, and we don't know the death toll at the end, but it's a painful thing for us at the moment. But our hope is in God. Same God who gave us the vision knows how this vision is going to be fulfilled. We are not afraid of dying or being killed. We're prepared to lay down our lives for the cause that will bring healing and salvation and forgiveness and life to our people. So we're not put off. We're not giving up. The destruction, the evil, the crime, the sin that we see is a work of the enemy. And the devil can be defeated by saints on their knees.